Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be recapping my round 1 game that I played in the World Open. Going to this game, my rating was 1968. This tournament took place in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and this is literally the biggest tournament in the Continental Chess Association, so I thought why not travel to this event. And going to this event, I was also one of the lowest rated players in the event. I think out of the 230 something players, I am seeded 215. So I didn't have a lot of hope for this event. My goal, however, was to get 3 out of 9. So we'll see if I achieved that goal. Now going to this game, I was playing a 2170, and he starts off the game with e4, c5, knight c3, knight c6, bishop b5. This is totally normal in this position. I go g6, takes, and now d3, bishop d7, and now he has this move f4. Now, this is already a critical moment in the game because I actually have this move c4 now, and I saw this move, actually, but I didn't see a concrete way forward, which is why I didn't play it in the position. I saw, after g6, c4, bishop a6, queen d3, that I didn't really know what I was going to do for, coming forward, but I actually have this, really strong move d5 now. Points after takes, knight takes d5. I do have some rook c8, targeting this pawn, and I just have a lot of activity in the position now with both my bishops being so open. But I didn't see all of that, so I decided to just go knight f6, regular developing move, knight f3, castles, and now d5, e5, knight d7, knight a4. Now I bring my bishop out to a6, so I can try and get c4. He goes b3, which doesn't really stop c4. We trade off these pawns, and now he goes rook e1, getting out of the line of sight of this bishop. Now, I didn't really have a lot of space in this position. White actually has a lot of moves he can make. Bishop b3, maybe he can move his queen out of the way, or maybe even go bishop b2. I decided to go knight b6 here with an idea of if he pushes down c8, c5, I go bishop c8. Now I can reroute my bishop to g4 or to f5, which would be better for me. So he goes bishop e3, and originally I was planning on going bishop g4 with the threat of taking on d1 and taking on f3, so that his pawn structure would then be damaged. So just let's say a4, queen d1, rook d1, bishop f3, and I felt this would be a lot better position for me, especially after a move like rook d8, or maybe trading the pawns and then going rook d8, since I actually can maybe target these pawns in the future with knight d5 and bishop h6. So he goes bishop e3, but I thought it would be better to trade the queens first and then go bishop g4. But I actually completely missed that, he went king f2 in the position, and I just completely missed that. I thought he may have to go rook f1, and so then maybe I could challenge the d file with rook d8. I didn't know how he's going to get out of that, but he just goes king f2, defending this knight. So now if I take, king takes f3, he can keep this pawn structure together, and I felt I was just, worse here, with the worst pawn structure and less space. So I go rook f d8, and he goes h3, and now I go bishop f5, and here in the position, he goes knight d4, another move that I just, for some reason, just completely missed. I thought he may have to go c3, or maybe go rook c1. If he had gone c3, I would have gone bishop c2 and try to reroute my bishop back to d3. Or actually, now that I think, he has this rook d8, knight d4. So, maybe I wouldn't have done that, actually, but it would have been a lot better than what happened in the game, knight d4. And actually, knight d4 is not even the best move. The best move is actually g4, giving up the pawn c2, so that now you can trade rooks and then go knight d4. The same idea when I went bishop c2 after c3, and the point is he just wins on he just wins the pawn on c6 and has just such an active position. My bishop's not really doing anything, so let's say in this position he could actually maybe take on a7, or he could just win my pawn and be up pawn. So after knight d4, I just go rook c8, defending my c6 pawn. He goes g4, I go bishop d7. He brings his king more to the center of the board. Now we go bishop e8, trying to save my bishop. And now my position is not really that active, but I had an idea of going rook d5 and rook d8. and maybe trying to get g5 to break open my bishop. And actually, he goes 92, allowing me to go g5. 92 maybe to reroute to c3 and e4. I didn't really know the idea of 92. Maybe so like our rooks will always be on the line of sight, so maybe he can trade at some point. I don't really know, but I go g5, f5. We take these pawns, not f6. Now I saw this square, this f7 square. I could go bishop f7, and now my bishop could be more active on the square. Let's say d5. He goes bishop f4, and now I go rook d5. If we trade, I can go rook e5. After knight f4, I thought we could just trade, and I guess go a move like, or not, or a move like king f8 here. I saw this to be a little bit passive, but I didn't really see a concrete way for him to break through, so I thought I would take this position. And so now he goes knight e6, and I go bishop f7. We trade, and I actually take the knight first before I take the bishop. And the reason why is, when you're in a, so after rook e5 and knight f4, I didn't really like this position, and also, from a practical standpoint, when you have less space in the position, you always want to trade off more pieces, since the position can later get less complicated with less pieces. So I take the knight, f e6, rook e5, and now he goes knight g3, rerouting his knight to f5. I go rook d5, knight f5, king f8, and now he goes rook d4, trying to double up his rooks on the d file. And now I go a5. I don't really have a plan here. I don't really know what to do, but I thought I could go a4, a3. So now this pawn e2 could be a future weakness for me to target if I can get my rook on the second rank. So he goes h4, which I thought was a future idea of g5, trying to break open this f file. After a4, he goes b4. I go a3 with a later idea of going knight a4, knight c3 to target this pawn. And now he goes h5. And after knight a4, he takes the rook, and he actually offers me a draw here. And if you look at the eval bar, in an actually better position. And here I thought I was actually better here, so I just declined the draw, and I took the rook with the pawn. And now he goes king e3. And the reason why I thought I was better here is because with my knight coming to c3, his rook is really passive, and now I had ideas of going rook b8 and trying to take this pawn, so I could break through, getting a passed pawn, trying to promote. I go knight b5 just to gain more time. I can stop the king from coming in. The best move here is actually just d4 check, which I also saw. After knight e4, knight d5, king e4 takes, c3. I didn't really see a way forward. I thought he was suddenly getting active with such ideas like rook f1 and g5, but maybe I have counterplayed my knight attacking this pawn. So I go knight b5, we repeat the position once, and now I decide to go rook b8, so that this just to gain more time, because I was falling under time pressure. And with this, I reached a 48th move, and actually the time control for this is 90 minutes with a 30-second delay, but it's also sudden at 30 minutes, which means after move 40 you'll get 30 minutes extra time. So since I reached move 40, I got 30 minutes extra time, so I thought this would be the perfect time to try and push for the win. After king d4, I go 92 check, and actually in this position, to my horror, I had the idea of going rook b4, but I realized this could be very problematic for me. After king c5, rook b2, with the same idea of taking, he can actually go rook d1 and checkmate me. And I thought, oh my god, I am losing this position. So I decided to just go rook c8, protecting the pawn, and actually with the idea of going knight f4 or knight c3 check. He goes king e4, I go knight c3, king d4, knight 2, king e3, knight c3. Now we go knight d4, and he gives up this pawn, but now c3. Now he goes c3, and I decided to go knight d3 in this position, trying to go knight b2. If he goes rook b1, so this b file could be blocked. Rook b1, knight b2. Now he goes knight b5, weakening my knight by targeting his pawn a3, because once he takes his pawn a3, my knight would be super weak. So now I go knight d3. I give him this pawn, so now I could go knight e5. And I also had this idea of going rook a8, skewering the knight to the pawn, so I could also win this pawn. And I'm also targeting this pawn. He goes rook b4, I go rook a8, knight takes c4, I take with check, and now I take this pawn. So now we're back to even material, but he goes king f4, and I go knight h6. And with the knight on h6, the knight is actually a little bit passive here. I think the best move might actually be f5 here. Point is after king takes f5, knight f6, and now you're targeting his pawn, and after h6, I guess you have some sort of like rook f2 check, and you just keep on checking. But this is super dangerous to allow, and I just didn't see that f5. It's not intuitive at all. Knight h6 is on the board, rook b8 check, king g7, and actually in this position, I thought it was completely losing after knight d6, but apparently after knight g8, knight e8 check, king, or wait a minute. Okay, I have this like rook f2 check. This is like crazy complicated. I just thought after knight e8 check I'm just completely losing with like knight f6, but now you just go king g7. No, I needed the eval bar for that. That's how confusing the position still is, even in the endgame. He goes rook b7, knight g8, and now he goes knight e3. He's preparing this pawn push coming to try and promote. I go rook a4 check in just a really fast move because I was also starting to lose time and get into time pressure. And now he just goes rook b4. I go rook a6, knight f5 check, king h8, and now he goes rook to e4, which I thought was a mistake. I thought he for sure should have gone rook b8. And actually, the win here is not so easy. The point is, if I take this, the first instinct for my opponent would be knight h6, just winning the knight. But actually, after king g7, something like knight takes g8 and like rook e1, the knight has nowhere to go now. It's completely trapped, and if I just keep this position, it's just a fortress. The knight has no way of breaking through, so this next turn knight is basically useless. It's rendered useless. But this is winning due to the move h6, just completely like trapping my king and trapping my knight. And you have to really understand what the position calls for to play this move h6. And White basically had to realize the only way he can win was not to win my knight, but to promote this pawn. And by going h6, you completely trap my knight and king, and with just the rook, I can't stop the c pawn. And so he can now bring his king to help his pawn and his knight, and that's just winning here. It's crazy h6, like it's very hard to see, so I don't blame my opponent for going rook e4. I guess the idea was just protect this pawn and try and push. But now I try and get active with rook a1. He goes rook c4, I give him a check, give another check. Now he goes knight g3 blocking, but also giving me this h6 square, so now I'm active again. And now I go rook e1, attacking the pawn. He goes rook e4, I go rook c1, rook e3, rook c2, trying to give another checks. I'm just trying to give as many checks as possible, just be as annoying as possible. Rook d3, rook f2 check, and now I get this f5 check. And I get my knight. My knight's back in the game, and actually I'm also back in the game. I can go knight f6, and now I'm just trying to stop c4 and maybe win e6. After c4, I was getting really low on time, and I just played f4 in an instant. And actually I completely missed knight f5. And the only saving move in this position is rook e2, which luckily I play. Point is after knight e7, there's knight f6 check. And he just tries protecting it. I just go knight e8, and this could just be a draw, but he just goes king c5, rook c6, and in rook d8, after rook d8 check, he offers a draw. We're both in time pressure, and I accept the draw because I don't want to get any future problems with the c pawn. But according to the eval bar, actually after king g7, the only move here is knight f5 check, and white has to play like this in order to hold. It's actually more complicated. It's more easier for white to blunder this position than for black, but I just decided to take the draw because my opponent's like higher rated, and I also didn't want to get in any more problems. So yeah, this is a very complicated game. You could learn a lot from this game, like especially this really like nice idea with when you get to that position, just to go like rook b8, rook e6, and h6. That was really a hard way to win. Otherwise, like white was just better almost the whole game. And I didn't really have like a lot of chances to hold, but he just kept on giving me chances and I managed to hold. So yeah, so I started off this tournament with half a point out of 1. And we'll see how I do in my next round recaps. My next recap will be round 2 and round 3 for a reason I'm not it's usually my recaps are usually just one round, but the next one will be round 2 and round 3. I'm not gonna tell you why. That's gonna be a surprise. But yeah. Anyways, that's all for today. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Goodbye, everyone.